What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Yeah, I gotta write a, well, I have an artist bio, but I need to rewrite it, update it, and feature it in a online art magazine. And they want a bio and an artist statement and all that shit. So I really need to update my shit this morning. So I'll probably be in here typing and not painting. This is why I need a fucking secretary for shit like this. This is the part of being an artist. I fucking hate this shit. I gotta type. Oh my god. I can't type 20 words a minute. I'm been here all day doing this shit, man. Because delete AESUE space. He loves painting. It's the fucking worst. Dude. Fucking hate typing. My god. Holy crap. I gotta get that dragon speech so I can just talk to my computer and be like, hey, write this shit down for me. Can you write this down, laptop? I, Travis Prince. I, the artist currently known as Travis Prince, does not like to type. Yeah, gotta do what it takes, man. Yeah, just gotta do what it takes. I might honestly get off camera and do this. This shit right here is gonna be so fucking boring. Thanks, bro. Well, you seen it. I worked on that piece for a while. That shit, it turned out pretty damn good. I'm happy with it. I'm actually really proud of that piece. Yo, thank you, bro. Yeah, dude. I'm fucking proud of that shit. Yes, sir. And they talking about keep the bio down to like 80 words or 120 words. I can't do that shit. Just gonna delete all this. So, I'm trying to look up examples. Yeah. And you can't get that instant gratification off of these streams. Alright, got some tidbits. Let's see. That's what's up, dude. I appreciate it. It ain't nothing but effort, man. I really do put an effort into this shit. I just try, like your parents always tell you, man. Just do your best. try your best. You know what I'm saying? Put your best foot forward, and make a real effort. And that's all I've for the past couple years, bro. That's all I've been doing with my art. I'm not playing around with this shit. This isn't no just a hobby. This isn't, you know, just something to pass the time. I'm really passionate about this art thing, and I just try to do my best with it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Put my all into this shit, and hopefully people will recognize it. You know, and not just because it's pretty, but they'll pick up on the underlining messages within the images, the underlying themes, and some of the subliminals that I try to incorporate into my art just to, you know, help educate people. And so now I have to put all of this shit in fucking words in an artist bio, and they want me to say what inspires me, my techniques, my aspirations, my motivations, and my favorite piece. And I gotta figure out a way to, like, actually say this shit. Instead of just saying, hey, look at this. Isn't it pretty? I gotta describe it in words. Shit. I'm an artist, not a fucking English teacher. I didn't major in English. Ah. Should I use a comma or a semicolon? I don't know. Ah. Tastes like apples. Alright, so I've edited the bio I already had. Edited, oh, you can't see that shit. Well, I edited it down to one paragraph. I just deleted everything else, is basically what I did. So I chopped all of that shit down. Now it's one paragraph. I may add two or three sentences in there if I can formulate them precise and concise. With over 20 exhibitions under his belt, Travis Prince is an up-and-coming artist who is getting a lot of recognition in the art world. His focus on education, social issues, and relationships in the black community, I should say relationships within, not, okay, which one sounds right? His focus on education, social issues, and relationships in the black community, or his focus on education, social issues, and relationships within the black community. I think it should be within. Gambino! No! Don't do it, Gambino! Well, you never saw Berserk with Guts in the old Berserk movie? And his mentor Gambino tried to kill his ass, and he wound up stabbing Gambino in the stomach, then hauling ass, then he became a mercenary. And then the Band of the Hawk picked him up, and then Griffin beat his ass. Griffin beat Guts, and then he was Griffin's slave, basically. And then you got the Bayolet, the egg of the king or some shit. Man, you never seen Berserk? Oh man, that was that shit. They remade the whole thing too. Berserk, they remade that whole shit, yo. One of the best animes ever. The Band of the Hawk. They're called Death on the Battlefield. Alright, what I was gonna do? I was gonna do something. Oh, I was gonna change from in to within. Right? That's grammatically correct, right? Within. Alright, I gotta put some music or something on. And that is the thing. Like, for some instances, there is no real difference. It's just some people think certain ways sound better. Just like saying, I can wait till tomorrow to do something, or I can wait until tomorrow. Like, what's the fucking difference? There is no difference, really, but some people just think until is the proper way of saying it, and not just saying, well, you can wait till he gets home, or and just saying, instead of just saying till, you must say until, or in certain situations, instead of saying in, it's just more appropriate to say within. It's weird. And that's why I fucking hate English. I've spoken this shit my entire life, and I still don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand the fucking language. It's fucking retarded. Yeah, you can buy a painting, and yes, I can ship overseas. If you can receive mail, which everybody gets mail, and that's all it takes. I send it to you in the mail. You get mail, you can get a painting in the mail. That's all it takes. Give me your address, and it'll get to you. That's the thing right there, is the. And honestly, it really doesn't cost as much as people think it does. I sent the piece to Japan, and the complete shipping for it was like $64, 64 US dollars. I don't know what the currency exchange rate for that is, but I didn't think that was a lot. To ship something to Japan for like $64, $74. I think it was 74. It was less. It was less than $100. I think it was like $74. I shipped I sent a drawing to Amsterdam. No, I sent the drawing to Australia for like $25. But it was just a piece of paper. So a piece of paper is light. It was just in the envelope, but that shit got to Australia for $25. I've shipped something to Alaska, Amsterdam, and Holland, and every time I've shipped that far, I don't think the shipping fees ever came over $100 US. So the farther you are away, the more it's going to cost. But even to ship international is more affordable than people think it is. It's not going to be like $500 or $600 that to ship it across the ocean or something. It's only a few bucks. You see the art, it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? It's worth it. But yeah, it doesn't cost a lot to ship overseas. Trust me. It costs you way more for the painting itself. Don't even worry about the shipping and all that shit. Can you afford the art? If you can afford the artwork, then trust me, you can afford the shipping fees. That won't be nothing. That's a drop in the bucket compared to the actual piece. Pay for the painting first, and then worry about shipping later on. It'll get to you. I can get it to you though. Trust me. I don't care where you at. I'll get it to you.
I am Toussaint Louverture. My name is perhaps known to you.
He was called the Black George Washington. He fought off 3 empires and enraged Napoleon.
The prospect of a Black Republic is equally disturbing to the Spanish, the English, and the Americans.
He championed liberty and equality for all. Toussaint Louverture and the Haitian Revolution.
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Haiti is always described as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. But during its height as Saint-Domingue, it was the richest place in the Americas. The thing about it, though, is that this richness was all rooted in slaves. Its wealth was based on human capital, on owning that human capital.
All day, as long as the sun is shining, the men are bending over and swaying a machete at the foot of the sugarcane.
The world as you know it disappears. Therefore you become an animal and you expect to live like an animal.
The dominion of the master had to be absolute, but that absoluteness itself made the master into something other than human as well.
Liberty, equality, fraternity, that was new for the world.
Toussaint Louverture is the epitome of humanity. He realized early on that the condition he was in was totally insufferable.
Toussaint Louverture recruited about 3,000 to 4,000 people, trained them, and they fought the French, the British, and the Spanish army for 12 years.
They burned the mechanisms of their production. They're burning the plantation fields, burning down the houses.
It was a wholesale massacre on a really, really enormous scale. It was a big, big, major payback time.
The Haitian Revolution is probably the most profound revolution ever realized by human beings. The only place where slaves created a nation. But nobody wants to talk about it.
In the summer of 1789, when Haiti was still the dormant colony of Saint-Domingue, it was France that grabbed the world's attention. Parisian mobs rioted against the French king and against their own desperate poverty. Chanting slogans for liberty, equality, and brotherhood, they sparked a revolution that would fill history books for centuries to come.
The trick about the French Revolution was that it meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
In the streets of Paris, the French Revolution meant an end to the appalling privileges of wealth. And France's brand new Congress, called the National Assembly, it meant the ideas of Europe's most radical thinkers could be realized.
Nobody knows exactly what's going to come out of it, but just the idea of having rights, right? The idea that all people have rights, that those rights are inherent. This was something that obviously philosophers had written about before, but during the course of the French Revolution, it was written down in a text called the Declaration of the Rights of Man.
It's a dangerous idea because the society is based on inequality. That's what makes it work, because it was not supposed to work for everybody. It was supposed to work for a minority.
What was a dangerous idea in France was even more dangerous in its slave-holding colonies off the coast of Florida, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and an island known as the Pearl of the Antilles. Today, the western half is Haiti. Then it was the French colony of Saint-Domingue.
One thing that's fascinating about that time, people think things were very far away. They were not. News traveled very, very fast.
We have to remember that the ocean was like a highway in the 18th century. I mean, the ships were constantly bringing news back and forth. Everyone was obsessed with news. Sailors would come off the ships. The first people they would talk to, the people they would work with as they were unloading the ships, were enslaved people. So there are reports who were describing the events that have been going on in Paris to the enslaved that are working alongside of them.
Few intended colonial slaves should take democratic ideas to heart. Far too much was at stake. Sugar greased the wheels of the 18th century economy, and Saint-Domingue was the sugar capital of the world. It was easy, even for France's political radicals, to ignore the agony that made it all possible.
The leaves of the sugarcane are just like minuscule saw. If they cut you, you may not even see it. But when you perspire, the sweat gets in it and it burns. In the roots, there are ants. They bite. And when they bite you, you will scratch yourself for half a day.
If the worker refuses to work, well, there is a law which you just shoot him. That's all.
The whole concept of slavery itself is a totally savage one. The French, they brought it down to science. A slave coming from Africa would not last 3 years, the way the system was organized. They had it down to that kind of statistics. They did it very systematically, and it was very successful.
Slavery in Saint-Domingue succeeded too on a foundation of relentless terror. Slave owner Stanislas Saint-Fouage explained it as rational management.
Slow punishments make a greater impression than quick or violent ones. Other than 50 lashes administered in 5 minutes, 25 lashes of the whip administered in a quarter of an hour. This is far more likely to make an impression.
The accounts about the tortures inflicted on slaves are often horrifying. Legs cut off or arms cut off, amputations for runaways. rubbing hot powder or pepper and so forth into the wounds. Slaves actually hung and left to die. You can kind of imagine that this kind of world in which essentially human life was given so little value that these tortures were kind of refined to this incredible, cruel effect.
Despite the brutal tools of control, some blacks managed to escape slavery. Many had been born free, fathered by white planters. Others had gained freedom through their own wits or talents. One such man was Toussaint Louverture.
I was born a slave, but nature gave me the soul of a free man.
Toussaint Louverture was a very determined man. He was a very ambitious man. And in my opinion, he was a genius.
Toussaint is, I think, one of the most incredible figures that I know about in many ways. He's born on a plantation in Saint-Domingue. He grows up on that plantation.
That plantation was owned by a man who was tolerant for the times. Toussaint was taught to read and write as a child.
He eventually occupies a somewhat privileged role, if you can say that, on a plantation as a coachman, and has a kind of relationship with the managers and masters in some ways. He becomes free in the 1770s, so he's somebody who kind of occupied different roles in society. And I think that's the key for understanding Toussaint, is that he saw possibilities where other people didn't.
He had businesses, had contacts in the US and elsewhere, bank accounts, managed his affairs pretty well. The man was endless in organizational capacity. I mean, he would have been a fantastic CEO today.
Toussaint didn't record his first reactions to the revolution in France, but his fellow free Saint-Domingueans, the white colonials, and the mixed-race population were transfixed.
In 1789, there were about 40,000 white people and about 30,000 colored people who were, of course, their sons and cousins and so on and so forth, who were landowners themselves, many of them slave owners themselves, many of them very effective businessmen, many of them involved romantically with the white master class.
One of the things that's important to remember about Haiti and race is it wasn't simply black and white. Instead, you had numerous gradations of color. One historian went so far as to give 110 categories of color, from absolute black to absolute white. And to each combination he gave a name: mulatto, quadroon, Mamaluke. And what he was accounting for was the drops of black blood.
Whites hoped for more control over the colony's governance, but the colony's mixed-race population hoped for more fundamental changes. They had been born free, but not equal.
They had to show physical respect for the white. Stand up when they are in presence of a white, call them Mr. or whatever title they wanted to have. It was not easy for them, and that's exactly why they were the first one, before the blacks, they were the first one to ask for equality.
The mixed-race population of Saint-Domingue decided their chance had come in 1791. They sent a petition to France's new government asking for the rights of citizenship.
This is a powerful message to have been taking place in a society that was explicitly organized on inequality. It's like dynamite.
The petition asked for civil protections, and it enraged the island's white population. Working-class colonists began a full-scale intimidation campaign. They threatened, beat, and murdered mixed-race residents in the capital. But the petition met a different reception back in Paris. The new breed of delegates in the National Assembly issued a landmark decree. They extended equal rights to the small population of mixed-race people born of two free parents. Despite the reform's limited extent, the governor of Saint-Domingue refused to obey. Colonial whites felt profoundly betrayed. Some, such as a planter's wife named Madame de Ouvray, began discussing radical thoughts of their own.
The National Assembly is committed to destroying our lives as masters, so much so that secession from France might be necessary. The slave owners of America, I hope, will band together to stop this contagion of liberty.
The good Lord who created the sun which gives us light from above, who rouses the sea and makes the thunder roar, watches us.
Boukman Dati was a slave and a voodoo priest.
Throw away the image of the God of the whites who thirst for our tears, and listen to the voice of liberty which speaks in the hearts of all of us.
In August 1791, as Saint-Domingue's white and mixed-race population squared off for a showdown, Boukman called together slaves from neighboring plantations. They'd been kidnapped from different parts of Africa, and the voodoo religion was their common culture.
Le vaudou, c'est l'esprit de nos ancêtres, c'est une religion. C'est le mode de vie de l'haïtien. C'est plus qu'une religion, c'est notre façon de vivre, c'est notre force. Le vaudou est libérateur, le vaudou est dignité, le vaudou est sagesse, et le vaudou, c'est notre tradition.
Boukman had called them to an area called Wakaima. First on the agenda was strategy.
That ceremony of Wakaima is the first Haitian Congress, the beginning of the revolution.
C'est dans cette réunion où l'Africain décide de n'être plus esclave, d'être libre, déjà là dans la tête, de casser cette chaîne dans la tête, de dire voilà, à partir de cette cérémonie, on prend l'Africain a pris son destin en main.
Haitian tradition says the slaves of Saint-Domingue planned that night to revolt. They timed their uprising to start on multiple plantations in 2 weeks' time. And they swore each other to secrecy.
They even said that they killed a pig and they drank the blood. This is what we call a communion. Communion that to keep what you have heard, what you have said to themselves.
The God of the white man calls him to commit crimes. Our God orders revenge. He will direct our hands. He will aid us.
On the night of August 22nd, 1791, 1,000 enslaved Africans attacked their masters.
Les esclaves empoisonnaient, les esclaves piquaient, les esclaves tuaient, les esclaves voulaient leur indépendance.
For them to be free, they have to have the same amount of violence that you exerted on them. That's why the revolution was very brutal. This is that hatred in the first day that came out.
The rebel numbers grew from 1,000 to 20,000 as newly liberated slaves burned cane fields and refineries in order to destroy the system that had enslaved them. Within 3 days, the most profitable plantations in the Americas had been laid waste. 184 sugar plantations and 1,000 coffee farms. Whites and mixed-race people fled to the capital city for mutual protection. From there, they watched firestorms on all horizons.
You've got a fiery cataclysm of enormous scale. I mean, the people on ships in the harbor supposedly could read their mail by the light of these fires that were, 10, 15, 20 miles away, to give you some faint idea of what this would have been like if you were there.
The eruption of violence put Toussaint Louverture in a difficult position. His own fortunes were tied to the plantation system, and he had straddled the white and black worlds for some 15 years.
Toussaint was no longer a slave. He didn't have the mentality of a slave. He was the owner of 2 or 3 plantations. He was not of the same class anymore. His interests were different from the interests of the masses.
But Toussaint's first reaction to the raging violence was based neither on money nor race. It was personal. He went back to the plantation where he had been born to protect his former owners.
It's true that Toussaint Louverture did return to the plantation in the early days of the insurrection and kind of maintained order there. And there's the question of why. Why would he do that? I think Toussaint was somebody who understood the value of humanity in many ways, right? I mean, I think he probably had gained that precisely from being on the receiving end of slavery.
Back in the capital city, as Toussaint helped his former master flee the violence, Saint-Domingue's whites repelled assault after assault. They soon regrouped and launched their own offensive. The bloodletting continued day after day, week after soul-numbing week. French colonist Pamphile de Lacroix.
The country is filled with dead bodies which lie unburied. The Negroes have left the whites with stakes driven through them into the ground. And the white troops, who take no prisoners, leave Negroes dead upon the field.
3 months after the revolution started, the voodoo priest Boukman Doti was killed in battle. White soldiers decapitated him and burned his body in view of the rebel camp. In the words of one observer, the conflict in Saint-Domingue had become an exterminating war. In the autumn of 1791, Toussaint Louverture could no longer sit on the sidelines. Despite a wife and children, despite the chance even of losing his own freedom, Toussaint didn't hesitate long.
He left everything. He dropped everything. and he went to the mountain.
It was an act of extraordinary risk. The island's 500,000 slaves outnumbered whites by 12 to 1, but their ultimate prospects were poor. Few had experience in military strategy, and they had no unifying history or long-term vision.
The fact is, a lot of people didn't really know what freedom was supposed to look like. Nobody had really even theorized or imagined this before.
Toussaint, on the other hand, had a unique window on the world. He was schooled in African and European culture alike, and had read some of France's most radical thinkers.
Toussaint had certainly read a text by l'Abbé Raynal, which predicted that out of the colonial slave system with its, frightening imbalance of numbers and horrible suffering and all of that, there would emerge a leader, revolutionary leader. I believe Raynal referred to him as a black Spartacus. Toussaint is a literate person. There's no way he would have missed this.
As rebel leaders struggled to forge a disciplined fighting force, Toussaint's talents and intellect set him apart. Then, in December 1791, some 4 months after the rebellion began, black enthusiasm began to crumble. The new French government in Paris sent more than 10,000 military reinforcements to help the colonists reestablish white rule. Supplies were scarce in the mountains, and winter brought famine to the rebel lines. Thousands began to surrender.
Toussaint Louverture was not somebody who liked violence, really. He was good at it if he had to do it, but he preferred to use negotiation, diplomacy, guile, trickery, anything, and if that didn't work, he'd kill you, no problem. But he'd try anything else first.
Toussaint Louverture was asked to write up a settlement offer in exchange for the freedom of 200 slave leaders and better working conditions on the plantations. The proposal offered to send most of the rebels back to the plantation. It was a stark recognition of 18th century realities.
Sometimes it's easy to look back at this and suggest that they were willing to sell out their followers. While the terms, I think it's true, are troubling in some ways, they were also trying to seek some change. And I think the key here is that it was really difficult to imagine that you would actually eliminate slavery.
New French commissioners had just arrived from Paris to restore order. More liberal than the planters, they urged Saint-Domingue's whites to accept the rebels' offer, and they called slave leaders to the capital of Le Cap for negotiations. Trust was minimal. Some slave rebels wanted to kill their white prisoners, but Toussaint Louverture argued against it. He wanted the whites returned to Le Cap as a gesture of goodwill.
So Toussaint is sent to negotiate with the planters with the idea that, in a sense, a settlement can be reached. The settlement is not only for the freedom of some of the insurgent leaders, but also for some reforms on the plantation. Small reforms, but reforms that, at least in the letters they describe, their followers really want.
Whether the small group of leaders actually would have had the power to say to all of these people that they'd taken in, okay, you're going back to work now, here's your chains. I don't know. As it happened, the white people were so short-sighted that they didn't even give them the opportunity to try.
The whites said no. They said no. Because at that time, they were the one who wanted revenge. They forget about what they have done for 3 centuries, and they think that they were the victims in that thing. So they have to avenge themselves. So they're not going to forgive or forget anything. They refused.
Of course, he's taken up arms against them. But at the same time, he's made a lot of concessions, and he's struggled against his own followers to say, look, we're going to treat the prisoners well, we're going to trade with them, we're willing to make a deal. And to have that refused by the planter class, I think certainly must have had a radicalizing effect.
Toussaint's support for a settlement abruptly ended, and with it, the best deal the whites would ever see. Back in France, the Democratic Revolution had turned to terror. France's Revolutionary Army was at war with neighboring countries. Its radical leaders sought to purge themselves of enemies from within. They executed thousands. In early 1793, they did the unthinkable. The revolutionary government beheaded the king.
Events in France were moving faster than anyone had ever intended. I mean, this was volcanic upheaval, a true class revolution that turned everything completely upside down. And each ripple that came out would strike the shores of Saint-Domingue.
One of the biggest ripples from France that washed into Saint-Domingue's shores was a commissioner named Léger Félicité Sonthonax. He was a French revolutionary with radical ideas about life in the colony.
Sonthonax arrives in Saint-Domingue having already had bad words said about him. There are people who've actually written from France to the colonists in Saint-Domingue saying, watch out for this guy. He's an abolitionist. He wants to abolish slavery.
Saint-Domingue's mixed-race population had so far retained its fragile alignment with the whites. To ensure that continued, Sonthonax created a representational council on the island and invited mixed-race citizens to serve. He even brought mixed-race men into the colonial government.
And a lot of white planters are really upset about that and see him as a really destructive force.
The white planters had cause for worry. Less than 2 years after joining the rebellion, Toussaint Louverture had risen to the top of the rebel army.
I am Toussaint Louverture. My name is perhaps known to you.
In 1793, he wrote an open letter to the island's disenfranchised.
I have undertaken vengeance. I want liberty and equality to reign in Saint-Domingue. I work to bring them into existence. Unite yourselves to us, brothers, and fight with us for the same cause.
With his letter, he announces two things. He announces, first of all, his commitment to the process, to the project of emancipation, and he announces his presence as a leader, maybe even the leader. He has gained great respect from his followers, and with this proclamation, he's essentially saying, you want freedom, and I'm the one who's going to bring you that freedom. So I'm the person to follow in this regard.
But Toussaint at this time was addressing the wider world too. He was particularly focused on Spain.
The Spanish wanted to wrestle the colony away from France for two reasons. First, the colony was very prosperous in spite of the war. And second, that prosperity was used by the French Revolution to combat them in Europe.
Spain controlled Saint-Domingue's neighboring colony. So in June of 1793, Toussaint struck a deal. Spanish garrisons just over the border provided guns and ammunition to the slave army and tipped the balance their way. Toussaint's forces captured 3 cities within 8 months. Saint-Domingue's white planters were desperate. Many hated the new order in France. In a treasonous move, they invited the British to help put down the slave rebellion. Now, the empires of France, Spain, and England, along with a vast army of former slaves, were fighting for control of the small island colony. Then, in early 1794, events in Paris caused another explosion in the colony. A multiracial delegation from Saint-Domingue had appeared in France's National Assembly. They had been sent by Commissioner Sontonax with a dramatic message. He had pledged freedom to Saint-Domingue slaves for fighting the armies of Britain and Spain. The emissaries made a compelling argument.
These are the principles and the ideals of France, and we fully represent them, and we wish to continue to represent them on our island. And so we've come to present our arguments about why we are in fact truly committed to those ideas and principles, and how we epitomize these principles of the French Revolution.
I think it was very powerful for the representatives of France to hear essentially that what had happened in the Caribbean is that the white slave owners had deserted France. They had gone over to the British, they had fought against the Republic. And the true people, the true Republicans in Saint-Domingue were these enslaved people who just wanted their freedom.
The French National Assembly endorsed the emancipation of Saint-Dominguean slaves. But that was not all. The delegates freed slaves throughout the entire empire, too.
And there's rejoicing and celebration. There's an older woman, a free woman of color, who's traditionally gone to the debates, who sort of sheds tears and is brought down and celebrated as part of this moment. And there are speeches in Paris, celebrations of this event throughout France. It's really seen as a kind of triumph for the French Revolution, for the ideals of the French Revolution, that this worst form of hierarchy, enslavement, and oppression has been abolished in the Caribbean.
It was utterly unprecedented. In a stroke, nearly 1 million black slaves had become French citizens. Word that the French revolutionary government had freed its slaves reached Saint-Domingue quickly. It was one of history's great watersheds, and due largely to the extraordinary military accomplishments of Toussaint's army. But the credit did not rest with Toussaint alone. He had several able commanders working under him, men like Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who shared his soldiers' life experiences more closely than Toussaint.
Dessalines had been mistreated in slavery considerably, whipped a lot. He had tremendous whip scars on his back that he liked to display on occasion. He had deep reserves of anger and violence, but also a very intelligent man.
For Dessalines and Toussaint, emancipation changed everything. They quickly trimmed their sails to the new order.
Toussaint realized that Spain had a king, England had a king, and France was talking about liberty, equality, fraternity. All men equal. So he realized that although the revolt started by fighting the French right now could be the best help they could receive. So he rejoined the French.
After 3 years in opposition, Toussaint Louverture was once again a loyal French citizen. So were his followers. It tipped the balance. Before long, Toussaint, Dessalines, and the army of ex-slaves pushed the Spanish out of Saint-Domingue. The British soon followed. Word of Toussaint's astonishing string of victories against white armies was spreading across the European world.
They didn't like it. They didn't like it at all that there was a black general beating white armies. They didn't like it.
Slaveholders everywhere were stunned and worried.
In the United States, for instance, and in Cuba, they didn't want even white Frenchmen to come because they would tell the story. Why are you running away from Saint-Domingue? They would answer that. And no matter what they answered, it would be known that there was a black revolt.
We confronted dangers in order to gain our liberty, and we will be able to confront death in order to keep it. Slaves had once accepted their chain because they had not experienced a state happier than slavery. But those days are over. The people of Saint-Domingue would rather be buried in the ruin of their country than suffer the return of slavery.
Toussaint's ringing language showed his profound attachment to democratic ideals, but there was another side to Toussaint too.
Anybody who looked like they threatened Toussaint either ended up dead or deported.
Toussaint had already been appointed Brigadier General and then Governor of Saint-Domingue. No black man had ever risen so far in the colonies. But Toussaint had a rival. The beloved French civil commissioner, Félicité Sonthonax.
Sonthonax was extremely popular because he was the one to say, okay, slavery is abolished. He was very popular, and the blacks used to call him Papa Sonthonax. That didn't go well with Toussaint.
Toussaint is very friendly with Sonthonax as long as Sonthonax can serve his purposes. No, and nothing personal about it. When Sonthonax becomes useless, he will send him back over there. That's as simple as that.
And in 1797, Toussaint in fact no longer needed Sonthonax. In a series of political maneuvers, he isolated the civil commissioner. Then in August, he forced Sonthonax off the island. Toussaint Louverture had triumphed again. In 1798, as Toussaint Louverture was evicting the last of the British from his island, another French general battled British interest halfway around the world in Egypt. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte.
Well, Toussaint and Napoleon in many ways are similar. Both were a little bit from the margins of French society. They succeeded through military brilliance, and they're both incredible military leaders, and they became political leaders as a result of their military experience.
But Napoleon's victories would put Toussaint's at risk. Just months after conquering Egypt, Napoleon marched into Paris. A coup d'etat toppled the revolutionary government, and Napoleon took the reins of power. The revolution is over, he declared. I am the revolution.
As Napoleon is rising to power in France, Toussaint is watching closely about what's going on. He knows several things. He knows, first of all, that there are very powerful pro-slavery voices in France who are agitating against him, attacking him, and proposing that slavery actually be recreated in some form in Saint-Domingue.
Toussaint believed Saint-Domingue's survival and the survival of freedom itself depended on his ability to mobilize people to rebuild the devastated economy. And in Toussaint's mind, that meant one thing. His black followers should return to the cane fields.
There were some compelling reasons for this. I mean, mainly in Toussaint's situation, he was really in a bind at that point, in the sense that his hope for peace was restoring productivity on the plantations, recreating the sugar trade in particularly. But nobody wanted to go back to that kind of work, so he pretty well had to force them. And then the people began to think, this is a lot like slavery.
He was strong, maybe a little too strong with the blacks in several occasions, but he had to do it. He had to do it. To be a leader, you got to know where to lay back, and you have to know when to say, okay, guys, go ahead, let's do it. If you don't do it, whatever the consequences, you'll pay for it.
Most newly freed slaves didn't see it that way. They wanted to work for themselves, growing crops for food rather than export. Toussaint's luster began to tarnish. Napoleon, on the other hand, was riding high. He restructured the government and proclaimed a new constitution for France. Far from enshrining black emancipation, it opened the door for France to reinstitute slavery in its colonies.
When Louverture heard that, he really understood that something was changing. And more ominously, he understood that he didn't have any way to influence Napoleon. And so what he did in kind of typical Toussaint fashion is he responded by saying, okay, Saint-Domingue is going to have its own laws. Well, here they are. I'm in charge here. I might as well write the Constitution.
Toussaint's constitution decreed slavery would never exist in Saint-Domingue again, and it was the first in history to prohibit discrimination based on skin color, a milestone that U.S. law would not guarantee for another 150 years. The Constitution had troubling elements too. It made Toussaint governor for life, with sole authority to designate his successor.
Toussaint is a great hero to me, but this was not a good idea. I mean, he basically, with that gesture, installed permanent military dictatorship, which has remained a problem in Haiti for 2 centuries. He could have done what he needed to do without that, I think. Not quite sure why he did it. But that was enough to send Napoleon over the edge.
Napoleon Bonaparte had had enough of revolution, and according to Napoleon, the U.S. President, Thomas Jefferson, shared his view.
The prospect of a black republic is equally disturbing to the Spanish, the English, and the Americans. Jefferson has promised that at the instant the French army has arrived, all measures will be taken to starve Toussaint. Rid us of these gilded Negroes, and we will have nothing more to wish for.
Toussaint tried urgently to show Napoleon that military logic, if nothing else, proved the merit of black ambitions.
Toussaint was writing Napoleon. He wanted so much to be recognized as saving this land for France.
His efforts failed. In 1802, Toussaint was stunned to see the largest French expeditionary force ever assembled entering Saint-Domingue's harbor. Its mission was simple. Napoleon wanted to turn back the clock.
My decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Saint-Domingue is not so much based on consideration of commerce and money as on the need to block forever the march of the blacks in the world.
Toussaint Louverture fought the invading French army for 3 grueling months, but the island's black population, now disenchanted with his leadership, offered lackluster support. On May 6, 1802, Toussaint Louverture surrendered. At first, he was allowed to retire from the army with full honors. But a month later, he was called to a meeting with the French commander.
If I wanted to count all the services that I have rendered to the French government, I will need several volumes, and still I wouldn't finish it all.
Yo, who is this?
Toussaint was arrested on charges of conspiracy.
I remember y'all was laughing about that shit the other day, yo. Who the fuck is... Who is this, yo? Oh my God, that's somebody from Ace Ventura?
Hi, I'm looking for Ray Finkel. And a clean pair of shorts.
What do you know about Ray Finkel?
Soccer style kicker, graduated from Collier High, June 1976. Stetson University honors graduate, class of 1980. Holds 2 NCAA Division I records, one for most points in a season, one for distance. Former nicknamed the Mule, the first and only pro athlete ever to come out of Collier County, and one hell of a model American.
What the fuck? What do you know about Ray Finkel? That's not what you're talking about though, is it? Nobody likes the kick. Yo. The laces were out. Or was it in? Or which way was it? Yo, did y'all see this shit, yo? Wait a minute. Man, I gotta type up a artist bio and my feelings about my art. And make this shit concise and small. This is weird. I'm just trying to squeeze all this shit into like a couple paragraphs. Go to my Facebook. You wanna see some shit, bro? Yeah, I probably already saw this shit though, man. Anyway, yo, watch this video.
Dave?
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Alright, I'm coming. Ooh wee. Ooh, I love it. I love it. They took it down. Ooh, they took that shit down, boy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They took that shit down. They took that shit down from Facebook. Yes, they did. I'll be right back, guys. Ooh, shit. believe Facebook took that video down. This post may have expired, or it may only be visible to an audience you're not in. What the hell? Nah, y'all took that shit off my fucking page. Nope. Yo, that shit is gone, bruh. That shit, they took that shit motherfucking down. That shit ain't on YouTube, bruh. Yo, it's this old white dude. Old man, he probably like in his 70s. Cause he got, matter of fact, he's wearing a hat. It says vet. It says veteran on that shit. You can't really, it may say Vietnam vet. It's old white dude. Old frail ass white dude in Africa. I think they in Uganda somewhere, yo. He had a hotel. It's all black people. And it's in Africa. He in Africa, nigga. Yo. So how the video started out, right? How the video started out. This motherfucker is already behind the hotel counter, like smacking shit off the counter. I mean, that's the first, like whenever that's, so it already escalated up to that point where he's actually behind the fucking counter. And so they start recording, and the first thing you see, he's like, ah, fuck this. Where the fuck are you going? And he chases like some dude behind the counter, and I guess there's a way to come back around into the lobby area. So he chases this dude all the way back around, and they're in the lobby, and it's like 3 Africans, black Africans, yo, and this old white dude with a fucking army vet hat on, and he's like, you motherfuckers went in my room, now give me a motherfucking key. You son of a bitch, you fucking hate your soul, you hate Jesus. And then he just punches this one dude like, bam, he steals off on his ass. He's like, yeah, you say something. You say something. Bam, he punches again. Look, you fucking niggers. And he just goes on and on about, you know, he came to Uganda as a missionary to try to save them. And this is the only reason that they're fucked up, because they don't listen to the white man. And you fucking hate your souls, and you disrespect, and he said that's the reason he's doing all this. This son of a bitch just disrespect fucking Jesus, and I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna take it. Look at me. Look at Jesus. Do you see Jesus? You obeyed me. You obeyed me. I am your savior. And he literally says this to this black African. He says, look at me. I am Jesus. I am your savior. You obeyed me. And he's punching this one dude. He's literally throttling this dude. And he's just trying to dodge all his hits. And the other guy, nobody's attacking this white man, yo. The other dude, the other black man, he says like this, please stop it. Just please stop. The white man says, look, you're good. You're good. Not like him. You're good. And he puts his hands on the side of this man's face and pulls him in to try to kiss him on the cheek or something. And the man pulls away from, he's like, well, what are you doing? And the white man's like, look, you obey me. You obey me. You don't fucking do that. And then he says, give me a fucking key to my room, and this fucking key better works. And the guy who's recording it, he looks at the camera and says, yes, you fucking record all of this. And and this dude is, it was some of the most craziest shit I've ever seen. And of course, I post that shit on Facebook, and I wrote on the top of it, so y'all still pray to Jesus? I mean, literally, y'all, all my family, all Christians, go to church every Sunday. I'm like, so y'all still pray to Jesus, right? The same Jesus that this dude is talking about. The same Jesus this man worships, right? His Jesus. Get the fuck out of here. Yo, what's up, yo? Motherfucking Chris. Yo, what's good, bro? Yo, that shit was too fucking crazy, though. Damn. Oh, here it is. I found it. Bruh, I found this shit. I gotta post this shit back on my Facebook, yo.
Come here. You hate Jesus? You hate yourself? You hate Jesus? You hate yourself? You hate me? You disgrace Jesus? Huh? Talk.
Francis, wacha kupige.
Talk. Talk. Come on, bitch. Come on, whore. You open my fucking room, I'll fucking kill you. Sir, he has disgraced Jesus. He has disgraced Jesus. He has disgraced Jesus.
Francis, umpige, toka
Spit in his face?
I am not going to tolerate no more. Jesus is not going to tolerate. Yeah, feel me. Fuck Uganda. I've come to love Uganda. I've come to help Uganda. But Uganda hates Jesus through this son of a bitch. You understand me, brother? You understand me? Yes, sir, I know you do. No. You obey what I say. I don't obey you. You understand? Open my fucking room now. You understand, bitch? Nigger, bitch? Look at me. Look at Christ who died for you. Look at me. Look at Christ who died for you. Look at Christ. No. Excuse. No excuse. No excuse. No excuse. No. Excuse. Jesus is tired. Yes. Jesus is tired of your goddamn disobedience. Yes. Feel me. Jesus is tired of your obedience, disobedience. He's tired. No, you fucking come up. I don't calm down. You come up to the Lord Jesus Christ. You fuckers. Why? Why have you hated Jesus? Why have you hated your own souls? You know it. You know it. But you refuse to repent and be saved. Motherfuckers, 3/4 of you are going to fucking die in 3 days. Give me my goddamn card to my room. This motherfucker better work. You understand me? Hey, bitch. Look at me, bitch. Yeah, you're afraid. You goddamn ought to be afraid. Bitch. Nigger. Bitch. You're not a human. Respect you. No, you don't. That's respect. No, you don't. You give me your key card. No. To make you a key card. No. Then you come fight me? Yes, I'll fucking knock your fucking life out. Because Jesus is tired of son of a bitches like you. You fucking hate yourself. You hate Uganda. You hate the Lord Jesus Christ. The Lord Jesus Christ is coming upon you with sword and fire. You fucking repent or you fucking die. This motherfucker better work. This motherfucker better work. Hey, you better get all this, all right? In the name of Jesus Christ, Uganda has come under.
What kind of hat he's wearing? That shit says
because they have hated themselves.
Vietnam vet, yo.
Their fellow man. They have hated the Lord Jesus Christ. You fucking record that, bitch.
Yo, it's too crazy, bro. Like, that's the problem with Africans, man. We too tolerant, yo. And the guy at the very end, the clerk is like, look, dude, your key wasn't working. I gave you a key and you come down here and fight me. You hit him like 5 times and spit in his fucking face before he shoved him back, yo. Like, how tolerant do you have to be? Because what? He's a white dude? Like, fuck that shit, bro. Like, oh my God. Like, what the he said, look at me. Look at Christ who died for you. Did you just say you Jesus? Did you literally just say you died for me? And that I hate my soul? Whoa, what the fuck was he drinking? I don't give a fuck how drunk he was. Bruh. I gotta repost that shit. They took that shit off my Facebook, yo. They took that shit down from Facebook. No lie. Clearly it's for horses. Yo. They locked his ass up though. Had to be on some Everclear, some moonshine, or something. Listen here, bitch, nigger, bitch. Tuh. Jesus is tired. Jesus is tired. He's not gonna take the respect, the disrespect from you anymore. I come here to love Uganda. I come here to help Uganda. But Uganda, 3/4 of you motherfuckers are gonna die in 4 days. Whoa. Jesus is coming back with fire and spear or whatever. What do you say? God damn. You supposed to be a Christian missionary coming down here to teach all the tribal people how to speak English so they can read your Bible and know your God and your Jesus. That's what you come to Africa for? To give us the Bible? And then you tell us that you died? You personally, this dude right here who drunk as hell, hitting and spitting on people, you died for my sins. But they know, and they think that psychological grip is as strong as it once was, and that he literally at that moment thought that by him saying that they would believe that. Look at me. You obey me. I don't obey you. I'm Jesus. I'm the white fucking savior. You should never do this to me. Jesus is a potbelly man locked out in the line. Give me my key. This motherfucker better work. Bitch. This key better work. You record this. I'm Christ. Look at Christ. Yo, I had to watch that shit like 5 times. No lie, yo. And it's just, I kept watching that shit. And it's like, this dude really did. And that first time, I ain't even catch that shit the first time, but the dude said he's Christ. He said, look at me. Look at Christ who died for you. Now, if y'all still want to go to church and pray to Jesus, ooh, man. You don't understand the connection of making all images of Jesus white. That is that mental connection. Jesus is white. Jesus, Son of God, heavenly, holy. You see white man, okay, white man, he white like Jesus. And then you subconsciously have that same correlation, that same connection. Oh, white man, holy, Son of God. Don't fuck with these people. It's like, no. 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 This bitch is stupid. That's just like the other guy who said, who said, oh, you're treating me like a fucking black person. Really? You're treating me like a fucking black person. No. Alright, now this is why I hate going on Facebook sometimes, because I'll get stuck in that shit. No, close Facebook out. Whew. Had me sucked in there for a minute. Jesus. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ locked up in Africa right now. I wonder when he sobers up, will he apologize? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No, you meant to. Or will he maintain his same disposition of all these motherfuckers are nigger bitches? What you gonna do now when that liquor wears off and it's daylight outside and the public looking at you now? Cause it's all over the interweb. You are now a celebrity. I will help make you famous. Let's make the racist famous. And he was a Christian missionary. Okay, a lot of different people are talking about this. I want to get somebody else's feedback on this too. Let me check this out real quick.
We're living in a time when the constitutional protection of free speech is being exploited and purposely misunderstood by people with nefarious motives. At the same time, they use the First Amendment to paint themselves as...
After they pay the price of engaging in speech that isn't actually protected. Alex Jones is a perfect example of that. Jones is currently facing multiple defamation lawsuits due to unfounded claims he's made about people on his conspiracy shows.
For years on his radio show, Alex Jones said the Sandy Hook shooting, which claimed the lives of 20 children and 6 adults, was fake.
Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors, in my view, manufactured.
Jones was not in the Texas courtroom on Wednesday, where his attorneys tried to dismiss the first of at least 3 defamation lawsuits against the radio host.
They're alleging in these lawsuits a conspiracy.
Instead, Jones was at his Austin-based InfoWars headquarters, addressing, among other things, his ongoing legal fight. The parents of 6-year-old Noah Posner, who was killed in the Sandy Hook massacre, say Jones's followers have tormented them with death threats, forcing them to move 7 times.
Believe it or not, people like Alex Jones actually take Alex Jones seriously. People who watch his show buy into his outlandishness. Some of them have even faced consequences for it, while Jones continues to spew his nonsense for profit.
And this the only reason I still be listening to this shit, yo, because I used to fuck with Alex so hard, and it seems like he just hit this turning point. And it was weird, because when you listen to all my old music, man, I say Alex Jones, InfoWars, Prison Planet. I was giving shout outs to all his shit. Yo, I actually sent my music to him, hoping he'll play it on this show. And it was like, the dude was, for me, for a while, he was my main source of what I considered to be true alternative information from, like, what you would get in the news, you know what I'm saying? He was giving you other facts and, you know, and connecting you to different people and alternative viewpoints from other intellectuals. The one guy, Alan Watts, he had on this show, and he the guy who wrote 9/11 Omissions and Deceptions, what's his name, Griffith. Like, Alex Jones had a lot of smart intellectuals on his shows. And, I don't know, he just hit, like, this weird-ass turning point where I couldn't fuck with him no more. And now it's to the point where they're taking all his platforms from him. That's the thing. It's hard to tell, like, I can't tell if he sold out or if he just went fucking crazy. I don't know. And I remember that one shit, yo, and I've showed this clip several times when he ambushed the Young Turks set during the campaign, Trump campaign and shit. That shit was weird as fuck. How he just rushed their set and then lied about it. He rushed his set. He ran from the cops and then immediately lied and said that he didn't do it and that somebody spit on him. And I was like, yo, your cameras just caught the whole thing and none of that happened with you, like you said. And I don't know, it's like, I can't think of his first name. His book is 9/11 Omissions and Deceptions. Is his name Edward Griffin? David Ray Griffin. And he's pretty good. And the first time I've ever heard of David Ray Griffin was on the Alex Jones show. And several other guys who got really good information and really know their fucking shit, yo. I was introduced to them through Alex Jones, and it's like for a while he was my main go-to guy for information, and now this is happening to him.
According to The Guardian, a Florida woman who believed that the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School was a hoax was sentenced to 5 months in prison for threatening the father of 6-year-old Noah Posner, one of the 20 young victims who died. Yeah, it turns out there are forms of speech that aren't protected by the First Amendment. Now, everyone knows, or at least everyone should know, that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. And while hate speech is protected, defamation is not. Alex Jones engages in defamatory speech against all sorts of innocent people, including the victims of mass shootings.
A separate defamation suit was filed by a man who Jones's website misidentified as the gunman in the Parkland school shooting in February.
There's a good reason why defamation isn't protected speech. Lying about an innocent person's character can destroy his or her reputation, which can also lead to job loss, harassment, and ridicule. So to be absolutely clear, the US government can take action against defamatory speech. And while the First Amendment only protects us from governmental retaliation in response to most speech, private businesses can take action against us for saying anything they disagree with. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and other online platforms have been considering whether it's a good idea to allow Jones's content on their sites. Anytime they've considered banning him, the right wing cries about free speech violations, even though private businesses, again, can ban anyone they please. Some of these platforms have finally made decisions. Apple just removed most of Jones's content from its podcast app. Spotify, which had previously removed only certain episodes of Jones's show, has also removed his content from their app. Facebook has announced that it had removed 4 pages belonging to Alex Jones for, quote, repeatedly posting content over the past several days that breaks its community standards, including glorifying violence and using dehumanizing language. And just today, YouTube, where Jones had 2.4 million subscribers, removed InfoWars from their platform entirely. A couple of weeks ago, YouTube had removed 4 videos from Jones's channel the company said violated its terms of use. Now, did these platforms do the right thing? Yes, they did. While I'm against removing content that's simply deemed hateful, I refuse to back someone like Jones, whose lies have destroyed the lives of innocent people who had already been victimized by horrific events like the Sandy Hook shooting. To make my case, let's walk through some of Jones's recent content. Now, recently, Jones went on an unhinged rant against special counsel Robert Mueller, accusing him of, well, I guess this is a conspiracy favorite, pedophilia.
They let Mueller rape kids in front of people, which he did. I mean, Mueller covered up for a decade for Epstein, kidnapping kids, flying them on sex planes, some kids as young as 7 years old, reportedly, with big perverts raping them, to frame people. I mean, Mueller is a monster, man. God, imagine. He's even above the pedophiles, though. The word is he doesn't have sex with kids. He just controls it all. Can you imagine being a monster like that? God.
Yeah, we're in crazy town already. Guess I should have warned you first. You might be wondering how Jones even got to that conclusion. Well, he's referring to documents released earlier this year by the FBI that detail a plea deal made by Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein was charged with engaging in sexual acts with underage girls. Mueller had nothing to do with the case, other than the fact that he was head of the FBI at the time. There is absolutely no evidence linking him to Epstein or the crimes Epstein committed, allegedly committed.
What's up,
but
yeah.
guess who is known to have partied with Epstein?
Just like Herb's Alex
Oh
Jones.
yeah, Donald J. Trump. In fact, back in 2002, Trump spoke highly of Epstein, telling New York Magazine, and I quote, "He's a lot of fun to be with.
Young
It is
Turks?
even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do."
I don't
And
know,
many
Young
of
Turks
them
don't go as hard
are
as
on
Alex
the younger
Jones be
side.
going, though.
No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. So where's the Alex Jones outrage against Donald Trump for being on the record super pervily as a supporter of Epstein and his alleged love for extremely young females? Oh, that's right, Jones is in the tank for Trump. So there's an incentive to defame the special counsel investigating Trump. Aside from defamatory remarks, Jones loves to incite violence, which also isn't protected speech.
Now look at that guy, he's a sack of crap. That's a demon I will take down or I'll die trying. So that's it. Gonna happen. We're gonna walk out the square politically, high noon, and he's gonna find out when he makes a move, man. Make the move first, and then it's gonna happen. It's not a joke. It's not a game. It's the real world. Politically, you're gonna get it, or I'm gonna die trying, bitch.
Yeah, complete with finger gun gestures, Alex Jones launched a thinly veiled threat against a law enforcement official, giving himself plausible deniability by lazily sprinkling in the word politically into his statement. Jones will spew violent rhetoric, which has already encouraged some of his viewers to go after innocent people, and then primes people to think there's a conspiracy against him if something goes wrong. In the Mueller case, Jones claims that if someone made an attempt against Mueller's life, that it would all be a false flag operation against Alex Jones. It isn't my opinion that Alex Jones uses his platform to spread conspiracy theories, misinformation, and lies. It's the reality. Just take a look at the way he speaks.
I don't want a war. I don't need some, coming of age deal to kill a bunch of liberals. I just can't. But I also feel like I'm in dereliction as a citizen of my duty, not saying we have to start getting ready for insurrection and civil war because they're really pushing it. They will line you and your family up, and they'll shoot you in the head, and they'll rape your daughters, and they'll kill your sons, and they'll make your wife work in a field till she dies.
There are real life consequences to Jones's behavior. Last year, he was forced to apologize for his role in the Pizzagate conspiracy. NPR notes that Jones's apology came the same day a 28-year-old man pleaded guilty to bringing an AR-15 rifle and other weapons into the restaurant and firing shots inside. Edgar Madison Welch said he drove to the Washington restaurant to, quote, self-investigate the conspiracy theory of a child sex ring, something that Alex Jones was pushing on his program. I have no doubt that Alex Jones will continue to try to spread blatant misinformation to his millions of followers today, tomorrow, and every day for the foreseeable future. But make no mistake, this is not an issue of censorship, as he will try to claim. This is no longer an issue of freedom of speech. This is about the safety of others and whether or not our online platforms will continue to be vehicles for spreading the acceptance of baseless propaganda from crazed lunatics. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed my show, No Filter, and I actually feel.
Oh, she started her own show now? I seen that, the little white gun. I seen that shit, yeah. Technology. Gotta get me a 3D printer. Or California fires update. I forgot California was burning right now.
That
This shit's unacceptable. Yeah, here it is right here. This the one I seen.
First about finding a new apartment.
Yeah, but popping these things really helps me.
That guy who was designing a 3D printed handgun, blam, he did it. I'm Anthony, and a little while back we talked about Defense Distributed, the group founded by University of Texas law student Cody Wilson, and their mission to build a 3D printable firearm that's safe for one shot and then distribute the plans free online. So we asked you whether you thought printed firearms and their plans should be regulated, and you guys responded really strongly, both for and against legislation. But here's the thing. That was all academic. Now it is real, because this week, Cody Wilson tested and fired the Liberator, the first 3D printed single-shot firearm. There's the remote test, and there is Cody firing by hand, which is actually pretty gutsy of him because one of the test guns exploded while firing. Now, 15 of the 16 parts of the pistol were printed with ABS plastic. The only other part is the firing pin, which is made up of a nail that you can pick up from a hardware store. Defense Distributed also added a chunk of steel inside the Liberator to comply with the Undetectable Firearms Act. Basically, they put it in there because the law says a gun has to set off metal detectors. Now, the plans of the gun are freely available online. It's a standard CAD file. Anyone is allowed to grab it and print it. Now, you should know that while something like MakerBot's Replicator or other home 3D printers could technically print finely enough to make a Liberator, Defense Distributed uses a really high-end printer, and they actually are working on a version that will work for home printers safely. So I wouldn't mess around with this unless you've got the equipment and the know-how, because that would be crazy dangerous, because it is a gun, you guys. It's a gun. And that's what's got a lot of people concerned. So currently the law says that you are allowed to make a firearm of your own. People have been making simple improvised weapons on their own since forever. Now, Senator Charles Schumer wants to regulate...
It's like the little zip gun. No fucking way, dude. No fucking way. This motherfucker tripping. Ooh, shit, boy. What the fuck? The professors. This motherfucker got it all. God damn, boy.
Of plans and printing a firearm at home, because the idea is 3D printing is such a smaller barrier to entry than we've ever had for making firearms. There are also concerns that while Defense Distributed is very careful about safety and even put that little chunk of steel into the Liberator, other people might not be. There's also a lot of worry that not regulating printed firearms will cast the entire 3D printing industry in a negative light. because the public may not understand the nuances involved here. People might start to think of 3D printers as weapon printing machines, which could cause over-regulation of the printers themselves just when the industry is getting off the ground. Stratasys, the people who make Defense Distributed's particular brand of 3D printer, actually took their machine back until Defense Distributed got a firearm manufacturer's license because they were worried about how the experiments would make their company look. Now, regardless of where you stand on this personally, you have to admit that this is a pretty amazing feat of engineering and a real example of the big changes 3D printing is going to bring to society. I don't know, what do you guys think? Now that this thing is real, is it time to talk about updating legislation, or is this a case where we need to reinforce protection of personal freedoms? Let me know down below and subscribe for more D News.
I need to print me something on that shit. You doing homework on that shit. My homeboy got the motherfucker. My homeboy got the goddamn printer sit on the top shelf. Yo, you already got that shit, bro. I'm telling you. The goddamn scientist, the professor. Oh yeah, that's why they just want to get there. That's what Elon Musk keeps saying is like, why ain't we there yet? Once we get there, and we can just harvest minerals and resources and whatever on the moon and build shit there. I don't know if you already know that. You trying to get it.
History has been shaped by conquest. The conquest of the world by Europeans. The conquistadors led the way. A few hundred men who came to the New World and decimated the native population. The secret of their success? Guns, germs, and steel. Ever since, people of European origin have dominated the globe with the same combination of military power, lethal microbes, and advanced technology. But how did they develop these advantages in the first place? Why did the world ever become so unequal? These are questions that Professor Jared Diamond has spent more than 30 years trying to answer. One of the most original thinkers of our age, Diamond has traveled the world looking for clues. He set himself a daunting task: to peel back the layers of the past and explore the very roots of power in the modern world.
whatever I work on for the rest of my life, I can never work on questions as fascinating as the questions of guns, germs, and steel, because they're the biggest questions of human history.
What separates the haves from the have-nots? How have guns, germs, and steel shaped the history of the world?
The 75th precinct in New York. I don't know what's that about. I keep watching Power, right? The TV show Power with 50 Cent and all them cats. And they be killing so many people. Like, and don't get caught for it. Like, nobody ever really gets caught for all these murders. And then I was like, is this even possible? Is it that possible for there to be that many unsolved homicides in the city of New York? And so I looked up unsolved homicides in New York. They will not give you statistics for it. I guess it's kind of like some state, infrastructure information or some shit, but they won't tell you the exact numbers of how many unsolved homicides there are in New York. So obviously there's a lot. Motherfuckers go missing. Or motherfuckers' bodies wash up with no murder weapon, no motive, just a body. And it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, but that, I literally had to check that shit out. Like, I don't know, like I said, just watching that show is like, y'all motherfuckers killing too many people without getting caught. Let me do some statistics on this shit. Oh, they don't want to tell you. It must be a lot of people. Oh, the old dirty cops? Oh yeah, they already out the game, probably retired and shit, or got caught and did their time or whatever. I can imagine, yo. I might have to check that shit out too, yo. I got a homeboy on the police. I know a couple cops personally. I went to school with a cop. Then one of my good homeboys, he's a cop in New York. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't be a cop because, look here, dope boy. I'll be like Alonzo from Training Day. You want to go to jail or you want to go home? Give me the drugs, man. You're not selling no more drugs today. Give me all your drugs. Give me all your money. Go ahead. Or I can put this into evidence and I can lock you the fuck up. Which one you want? You want to go home? Well, give me everything you got on you. And that's the kind of cop I would be. No camera. My camera will always be fucking up. I'll be forgetting to charge that shit. I wouldn't want no partner. I don't need no partner. I know a couple dirty cops from back in the day. Motherfuckers do the same shit. That's how it was. Like, you gonna give it up or you gonna get them handcuffs put on you? It's easier to just give it up. That's what I'm saying. That's when I came up. Shit, the 80s and the 90s, bruh. Shit was crazy. I grew up in Philly. I was right next door to that shit. You know what I'm saying? Just right next door. Shit, Philly, New York, Jersey, all that shit, man. That shit was ugh. Yes, sir. I was born right at the height of that shit. I was born in 1981. You know what I'm saying? Smack when that shit was full steam, bruh. Full steam. Shit. My mama was a dope head. My daddy was the dope man. You feel me? Oh, I talk that real shit, bruh. First-hand experience. Cause my mama was a dope head. My daddy was the dope man. Now look at what they both did. They made me.
Jared Diamond's quest to uncover the roots of inequality began in the rainforests of Papua New Guinea.
Oh, we look up. Oh.
Diamond is a professor at UCLA in Los Angeles. He's a biologist by training, a specialist in human physiology. But his real passion has always been the study of birds.
I love watching birds in this place. I began watching birds when I was 7 years old in the United States. Then it was just a matter of identifying them. I came here when I was 26 years old to New Guinea, and it was love at first sight. Look.
Diamond has been making regular trips to New Guinea ever since, and is now a leading expert on the bird life of the island.
Morning, Montauk.
But in the course of his field work, he's become just as curious about the people of New Guinea.
You go find a fish. 20 fish you got? That's old number 2 bush cow cry going. Over the years, I've gotten to know and like thousands of New Guineans. The name one again you talk? Name Yanai. I've learned several of their languages, and much of what I know about birds I picked up from them.
Because of hard work.
There have been people living in New Guinea for at least 40,000 years. Much longer than on the continents of North and South America. Oh, look 'em. Look 'em, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fella. They're among the most culturally diverse and adaptable people in the world. So why are they so much poorer than modern Americans?
The question was put to Diamond bluntly by a man called Yali, whom he met on a beach more than 30 years ago.
Why you white men have so much cargo and we New Guineans have so little?
Yali's question really threw me. It seemed so simple and obvious, and I thought it must have a simple and obvious answer. But when he asked me, I had no idea what that answer was.
Why you white men have so much cargo and we New Guineans have so little?
New Guineans use the word cargo to describe the material goods first brought to their country by Westerners. Cargo was regarded by many as evidence of the white man's power. It was treated with an almost religious reverence. For their part, Western colonials typically believed that power was determined by race. They saw themselves as genetically superior to the native population. To them, it was only natural that they should have so much cargo, and New Guineans so little.
To me, any explanation based on race is absurd. I know too many really smart New Guineans to believe there's anything genetically inferior about them. It's their ingenuity and their quickness to learn that have always impressed me. They can go empty-handed into some of the most difficult environments on Earth, knock up a shelter in a few hours and survive.
Me try and just tell a step. Just tell rope and strong and up and up and up and up.
I wouldn't know where to start. In this environment, I'd be helpless without them. So why didn't these ingenious people invent metal tools, or build great cities, or develop any of the other trappings of modern civilization? The world that I'm from is so different. The modern U.S. is the richest, most powerful state on Earth. It's crammed with more cargo than most New Guineans could ever imagine. But why? That's what Yali wanted to know. How did our worlds ever become so different?
Diamond realized that Yali's question was far bigger and more complex than it first appeared. It was really about the roots of inequality. A question as old as human history itself.
Why, since ancient times, have some societies progressed faster than others? What allowed the Egyptians to build great pyramids while most of the world was still scratching out a living? How did the Greeks ever develop such an advanced civilization? Or the Romans? Or the Maya? All great civilizations have had some things in common: advanced technology, large populations, and a well-organized workforce. If I could understand how those things came into existence, then I'd understand why some people marched faster than others during the course of history.
Diamond set out to explore the division of the world into haves and have-nots. It was a massive challenge that few scholars would have dared take on. He was a scientist, not a historian. How could he possibly solve the great puzzles of human history? To understand where inequality came from, Diamond needed to identify a time before inequality, when people across the world were living more or less the same way. He had to turn back the clock thousands of years, back before the first civilizations, back into prehistory. "13,000 years ago, the ravages of the last ice age were over. The world was becoming warmer and wetter. One area where humans were thriving was the Middle East. "13,000 years ago, the Middle East was far less arid than today, with more forests, trees, and plants. People here lived like people everywhere at this time, as hunter-gatherers in small, mobile groups. They were frequently on the move, making shelters wherever they could find animals to hunt or plants to gather. They'd live in these shelters for weeks or months at a time, as long as they could keep feeding themselves. But as seasons changed and animals migrated, they'd move on to the next valley or ridge looking for new sources of food. One of the few places on Earth where it's still possible to find people hunting and gathering is the rainforest of Papua New Guinea.
Instead of just reading about this lifestyle in archaeological books, I've been lucky enough to witness it firsthand, to see for myself how we all lived 13,000 years ago, and how we found food. To catch an animal requires skill, stealth, and encyclopedic knowledge about hundreds of animal species. You have to be pretty smart to be a hunter.
"13,000 years ago, people in the Middle East hunted in the same way, tracking down whatever game they could find. fundamental problem with hunting is that it's never been a productive way to find enough food. It takes time to track each animal. And with a bow and arrow, there's no certainty of how the hunt will end.
What something? You know can laugh. You try again.
Okay. Pull in. Okay.
One time more.
Yes.
One time.
You pull him strong.
Me pull him strong. Yeah, me.
Yeah, you pull him strong and by go more yet.
Me play broken bow.
Go back there. You not strong. You not strong, yeah.
Me no strong. What is that?
So you pull him strong.
All right. Me pull him strong. Die kind of what fella Levi. Levi did it. You number one, me number two. Me try, me go.
Because hunting is so unpredictable, traditional societies have usually relied more on gathering. In this part of Papua New Guinea, the gathering is done by women. An important source of food here is wild sago.
Okay.
By stripping a sago tree, they can get to the pulp at the center, which can be turned into a dough and then cooked.
I'm about to go get something to eat, man. I ain't really paint shit.
Although it's physically...
I've been in here trying to get this artist bio together this whole time. I don't know why I have my name there twice. Let's see. So yeah, it took me all morning just to type this much. But it's all about the wording. So I think I got the wording right to make myself sound like I'm the shit, but in a humble way. Nah. I didn't see that. What is that? I have to check that shit out. Alright. Yeah, I'm hungry as fuck, yo. I'll probably get on that GTA while I'm eating too, man. Let me get at y'all. Peace, y'all.